YTW, the Truth series. We're kind of picking apart the YTWL circuit and talking about smarter, more effective ways to integrate it. So we've hit on the Y's. We've told you smarter ways to do the Y's. We've told you smarter ways to do the T's. Now we're going to talk about the W. Believe it or not, that's probably the most useless letter in that sequence. There really is no added benefit to this motion. But we'll get to an angle that you can, if you want to throw that in, a way to have it benefit. But I want to explain something to you really fast here. If you can imagine, if I'm sitting down, the average person at a desk, and I'm slunched over, and I'm typing and using my mouse, using my cell phone and whatnot, right now my scapulas are protracted, which means they're going away from the midline of my body. So I'm like this. Pretty bad posture. And if all I did here, this is what I'm mainly doing. Okay? You see this angle? Now, if I just hold this, which is very normal, and I change the position of my scapula, you notice what is happening is I'm actually externally rotated. So most people, believe it or not, have much more dominance externally rotated from this position than they do internally rotated. We think this is internal rotated. It's not really. It's a protracted scapula, but when the scapula is protracted, we have to externally rotate to get this angle when the scapula is not there for us. So if you can understand that, carry that over to the Y, we're already very overactive in this position. And if someone's going down to do Y's and they don't have good movement of their scapula, we're going to actually irritate already overactive and probably already irritated shoulder tissues. So that's one thing that I would say, if you're not really that good with understanding how the scapula should move when you do that, you don't even really need to do the W. W traditionally is done this way. Now, if it's something that you really feel is important, I was exposed to this neurodevelopmental pattern by our physical therapist here, Morgan Johnson, which we've been using, called the pivot prone position. So I'm going to explain this to you for a second. We'll come down here to the floor. As we're babies in early stages of development, we have two positions that we tend to shift back and forth from. This position here is kind of like a plank position, at least in the front, and then this develops the anterior part of our body, and as we lean forward, we flip, and this angulation here, this angle develops the posterior, thoracic extension, lumbar extension, and some shoulder blade action and strength. That's called the pivot prone position, but you notice where my hands are, okay? They're out, they're not thumbs up, and this actually causes more lower trap recruitment than this position. So here to here you can see the flow. So if I'm standing as an athlete, if I'm here, if you notice what seems to be more natural, if I just opened up, it puts me in that pivot prone position. So instead of doing your W's the traditional way with the thumbs up, what I want you to think is pinkies up, thumbs down as we go. And this, you'll feel the difference as you do it, plus you're reinforcing a very important neurodevelopmental pattern that a lot of us have probably lost and have developed weaknesses and compensations because we lack that pattern. That's called the pivot prone pattern. So we've talked about the Y, we've talked about the T, now we've covered the W, so we want to replace the typical W with the pivot prone position. Another smarter way to do your shoulder circuit.